we have a fire in the forecastle. All through fire, the muster at the station, please.
There is no greater safety concern at sea than fire. To protect our lives, our ships, and our cargoes from fire, we must do three things and do them well: prevention, preparation, and practice. In this program, we'll look at ways to improve fire safety at sea, especially ways to prepare and conduct fire drills. We'll also give you some practical advice from industry experts. You conduct fire drills at sea for your own safety, of course, but they're also required for certification, for insurance purposes, and by port state control.
Our emphasis on safety is on prevention, and certainly when you look at the catastrophic or potentially catastrophic outcome of a fire on a vessel, you've got to work at prevention, and then you have to work at training and education of how to respond to a fire.
Fire creates three hazards, any one of which can kill you. Flames and heat cause burns and damage property. Smoke and vapors suffocate people, and explosions kill and maim. Let's start with some of the fire basics. Fires need three things: ignition to start, oxygen to breathe, and fuel to consume and burn. Eliminate oxygen and fuel and you snuff fires out. Eliminate ignition and you keep fires from starting in the first place. That's prevention. Most fires aren't accidents. They're caused by carelessness or poor procedures. Welding and burning are obvious fire hazards, but prevention should also include attention to galley operations, oil transfer procedures, cargo storage, wiring and circuits, and especially careless smoking. The best fire prevention is just good housekeeping. Pay attention to the human side and don't cut corners.
Over 80% of our marine casualties are through human error, and so we have a big initiative on prevention through people, and things like wiring doors open for better ventilation, and then the fire starts and you don't have the bulkheads and the fire integrity that you need to help fight the fire and keep it from spreading.
Be strict about inspection and maintenance. Inspect all equipment regularly, both machinery that could pose a fire hazard and the equipment used to fight fires. Regularly check detection systems and fire extinguishing systems. All detection systems should be tested regularly. Smoke detectors, heat detectors, flame detectors. Know where they are and what they do. This is part of a built-in or fixed fire extinguishing system, CO2 to be specific. These are in-place systems that need to be checked and monitored regularly. And as part of your preparation and ongoing drilling procedure, you need to know how and when to use a system like this one. Some fires may be extinguished by simply activating a fixed system and staying out of the way. There are several types of fixed extinguishing systems, which vary from ship to ship. They include CO2 systems, foam systems, steam smothering systems, and water spray systems. Most of them are hazardous to your health and must be used carefully.
There needs to be more awareness on how these systems work and what they're designed to do. And I think once that awareness sneaks into the drill environment, people start paying more attention to them.
Even before you begin drilling with it, you need to inspect and familiarize yourself with the personal gear you'll be using to fight fires. This means not only knowing what to do with it, but keeping it shipshape and ready.
That is your opportunity to look at the equipment and make sure that it's functioning properly and to put it back in service. And by put it back in service, we mean make sure that the bottles are filled up, that you've washed out the headgear, batteries are in the lights are all working, and the gear's stowed in a way that you can get it out rapidly and make sure that it's functioning quickly.
Fire prevention is about education, inspection, and good housekeeping. Learn to recognize fire hazards, and if you can't minimize them, if they go with the territory, post warning signs to keep your people on their toes. In our next segment, we'll talk about the second key element in fire safety, preparation.
Hello, all crew. We have a fire in the forecastle. All crew fire at the muster station, please.
Fire drills are an indispensable part of your training to fight fires at sea. But before you drill, you need to prepare. Both officers and crew must learn basic procedures, train together, and grow into an effective firefighting team.
A ship is like anything else, it's a system, and you've got to understand all of the components of that system and how it all fits together and what your individual role is within that system. And unless you train and exercise right for an emergency, you're not going to get it right.
A good place to start is with your ship's emergency muster list or station bill and with the ship's fire plan. Both of these are crucial for fighting fires and for staging competent fire drills. The muster list assigns roles and responsibilities during a fire or other emergency. The fire plan locates extinguishing systems, hoses, pumps and connections, equipment, and supplies. Many fire safety features are built into the ship itself. Learn them and incorporate them into your drills.
Why should you have to have a reference to a plan to know where the sprinkler heads are, or to know what equipment is in that hose box, or to know where the dampers are? You should know that in your sleep. And once you get there, you'll never have to worry about a port state inspection again. They'll be impressed.
No matter how well you're organized, fire safety still comes down to the individual training and competence of each crew member. It's the crew that will make the difference in an emergency involving fire. The STCW code sets 8 minimum standards for fire prevention and firefighting. Crew members must demonstrate competence in the use of various portable fire extinguishers, the use of SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus, extinguishing smaller fires, such as electrical and oil fires, extinguishing fires using jet and spray nozzles with water, extinguishing fires using foam, powder, and chemical agents, entering and passing through a compartment with high expansion foam using no SCBA, fighting fires in an enclosed space using self-contained breathing apparatus, and finally, crew members must demonstrate competence in using fog or steam for fire suppression. These STCW and other individual competency requirements make great drill objectives. Use them.
You need to take care of this stuff before you take care of anything else on the vessel, and it's not just the equipment, it's do you know how to use it, what is it for, and is it ready to go, and are you ready to go? That's how you're going to get home if everything else fails.
Be sure and pay attention to the particulars of your own ship. Individual ships have their own design features, fire safety systems, and procedures. And depending on your cargo, you may have special procedures. Each ship, voyage, and crew is unique. You prepare for fire emergencies by getting to know your equipment and your procedures. Then you're ready to put what you've learned to the test. The very best practice is realistic, thorough fire drills conducted at least once a month.
Most fires start as very small incidents, and if you can focus in on that and do the right things right, you can keep that as a very minimal incident. Few seafarers are unfamiliar with fire drills.
They're a part of life on board any ship. But it's our very familiarity with these drills that often makes them simply routine and often ineffective.
I think when you do drills on a regular basis, it's kind of easy to get, it just becomes routine and people don't think about, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? And sometimes you just get into this mode where you just do this one evolution over and over and over again.
This is the SOLAS Convention, Safety of Life at Sea. Some pretty specific requirements and regulations for fire safety training. We're going to take these SOLAS regulations with some help from the United States Coast Guard and other industry experts and suggest 8 practical ways to get more out of your fire safety training and practice drilling for success. First, plan the drill carefully. Set specific learning objectives for each drill. For instance, getting to muster stations faster. Set the timing and time frame, when you'll drill and for how long, and vary them. Plan a time to debrief and evaluate the outcomes. Plan the drill with input from all the ship's officers. Limit the drill to specific objectives that can be measured. Don't try to do everything in one drill. Break key training down into key components and train them in detail.
What you start finding out is that there are so many elements to a good fire drill that those elements themselves need to be drilled individually.
Second, write a scenario, a script for each drill. Describe specific events. Fire in the deep fat cooker at 6:45 in the morning, for instance. Put time pressure into the script and consequences. Say that 3 minutes into the scenario, smoke fills the space or someone is injured. Strive for realism and the chaos of real events. Anybody can walk through the same old script. When you're ready, sound the alarm. Try to surprise the crew if possible, but be sure to announce that this is a drill. Test crew knowledge and response time. How are the communications once the alarm has sounded?
Hello, all crew.
Evaluate the speed and the clarity of the communications, and make sure you have procedures to follow when you discover a fire. Conduct drills where the alarm originates someplace other than the bridge, which is more realistic.
One of the basics is to pass the alarm first. And then, if it's something that you can extinguish by yourself without risk to yourself, go ahead and extinguish it. Don't attempt to extinguish a fire without passing the alarm first, because if you get overcome and the word doesn't get passed, then that fire could become big. It could put your life at risk, and it could definitely put the vessel at risk. So the first thing is to pass the alarm.
The next step in the drill process is to muster the crew. Track the speed of your mustering and your organizing. Do you clearly know your roles and responsibilities? Is there clear communication of what's happening and what must be done? It's here at the muster station that the drill scenario is presented and begins to play out. There will be general responsibilities dictated by the muster list and specific roles that derive from your script.
Certainly we want to see good communication. We want to see knowledge. They know how to use the gear. They know what the gear is for, and they can put it on and use it properly. And we want to see a coordinated effort, good communications between the supervisors and the people who are actually doing the firefighting efforts.
SOLAS regulations are quite specific about mustering the crew and assigning of duties. Among their other responsibilities, crew members must know how to man the fire parties that are assigned for specific emergencies and perform any special duties assigned in the muster list or fire plan. SOLAS also says drills must be conducted as if there were an actual emergency.
I think our challenge is to become super perfect in the drill environment, because when you actually have to use that equipment, you don't want to have to think about how to use it because you're going to be thinking about other things.
Besides mustering, SOLAS lists several other steps required for a successful fire drill. Failure in these areas can lead to port state control detention. Starting the fire pump using at least the 2 required jets of water to show that the system is in proper working order. Checking the firemen's outfits and other personal rescue equipment. Checking the relevant communication equipment. Checking the operation of watertight doors, and fire dampers. Checking the necessary arrangements for subsequent abandonment of the ship. SOLAS also says that each crew member should participate in a fire drill at least once a month. Our experts say more like once a week. And after a crew change, if more than 25% of the crew have not done a fire drill in the previous month, that drill needs to take place within 24 hours. Experts suggest you try not to combine your fire and your abandoned ship drills. Both firefighting drills and abandoned ship drills are complicated enough without combining 2 drills into one. After leaving the muster stations, crew members should use and test the equipment. Depending on the specifics of the drill, this can include hoses, pumps and nozzles, breathing equipment, firefighting suits and other gear, and all communications equipment. In their port state control inspection process, the U.S. Coast Guard may set up a script of their own. Then watch your results.
Usually what we do is stage a drill, and we'll say, okay, there's a fire in this space, and we see how the crew responds, if they're trained, if they use the equipment properly, if they have good communications, if it seems like it's a coordinated effort, things of that nature.
Use a script to focus the fire teams on particular skills or pieces of equipment. Our experts insist that 10 very focused, specific, different drills are more effective than repeating a routine drill 10 times. Examples of specifics: hose team procedures, breathing apparatus, search and rescue, use of foam and CO2, first aid and CPR, protective clothing, and so on. The next step in successful drilling is to attack the fire. The method of attack depends on your scenario, and although speed is important in firefighting, proper assessment of risk and tactics must come before any action. Create chaos and surprise for more realism, and evaluate the quality of decision-making and leadership, not just technique.
Who should go to it? Should you have respirators? Where are those respirators? Where are the fire hoses? How do you charge the system? Who's the fire party leader? Who knows about damage control? Those sorts of things.
Here are 8 key procedures that are important to your ability to attack fires successfully. First, alarm and notification. How do you let your own people know and any shoreside parties, owners, authorities, help? Next, reporting. Initial and follow-up word on the fire's location, damage sustained, and current status. The size-up is a crucial step. Type of fire, location, extinguishment options, manpower available, prevention of spreading, and staging areas. Next, you must organize your communication, telephone, messenger, radio, walkie-talkie, and designate bands and priorities. Based on the size-up, decide on the method of attack, basically direct or indirect, going right at the fire or surrounding it and snuffing it out. Ventilation control will be crucial to the attack. Vertical and horizontal sources, natural and mechanical ventilation. Be aware of the impact of any emergency on your fuel and electrical systems. You may need to access shutoff valves and determine isolation areas to protect these systems. Finally, you will be monitoring exposure, the course of the fire. This means fire travel, where it's been and going, and 6-side monitoring of all areas adjacent to the fire. The key to making your fire attack training and drilling effective is to be as realistic as possible. If you can get a smoke machine, do it. Remember that the purpose of a drill is to train and to teach. If you need to slow a process down and pick it apart, do it. Repeat steps or processes if you need to. Encourage participation by all crew members. And don't worry about mistakes. That's how you learn and improve. Some of the very best fire drills literally fall apart. Remember, if your drills are going too smoothly, you may not be challenging the status quo. The more risk and chaos you put into the drill, the more you're going to learn, and the more interesting that drill will be for everybody involved. The final step in conducting an effective drill is to evaluate the outcome. Rate your results against your objectives. Critique your performance together as a team, and make sure you incorporate your lessons learned and document your results.
If you have a major incident and you don't incorporate lessons learned, then in my opinion you failed, because if you do the same things the same way, you're going to get the same results. And so you've got to build those lessons learned in so that you do things differently and better.
Nothing you do on board ship is as important to your livelihood as fire safety. Remember the 3 Ps: prevention, preparation, and practice. And conduct regular fire drills and exercises. You'll not only keep your ship and its crew safe from fire, you'll build teamwork, improved communication, and skills. The transfer of fuel oil into a vessel, bunkering, requires diligence, safety consciousness, and proper procedures. Safe bunkering is the product of good communication, proper crew training, and compliance with international, federal, and local laws. The safe bunkering procedures you'll see presented here come from those 3 sources: internationally accepted maritime practices, the United States Coast Guard regulations, and the brand new guidelines of a local regulator, the Washington State Office of Marine Safety. You'll see and hear a collection of transfer tips, timely reminders throughout the program on handling oil safely. You'll see and hear safe procedures listed, explained, and illustrated. And you'll see and hear the state-of-the-art in marine safety, Washington State's new bunkering guidelines.
Now the deck roving watch is...
Maritime safety is a people process. Virtually every marine accident or oil spill is the result of human error. It's well-trained people working conscientiously together that make safe seamanship a reality.
Since the enactment of the Oil Pollution Act of '90, there's been a tremendous consciousness, on the part of all, both the regulators and the customers, being our mariners, to the fact that no longer will we tolerate having oil going into our environment.
We're just going to have to watch these containment locations and make sure they don't fill up with rainwater.
Right.
A good bunkering operation begins with proper preparation. Sharing key information, explaining correct procedures, establishing communication links, reviewing pre-loading plans, providing crew education and training.
everybody who's involved in the training session should be told everything about the bunker operation, not only their own job, but they should be sitting there listening when the other person's job is being talked about, so they have a full understanding of the fact that communication in almost all operations is critical.
Team 1, fire team 1 from the ship inside of their area, we still have reports of 2 people missing.
A shipboard fire is among the most severe emergencies mariners can face. And if that fire erupts in port, officers and crews face added challenges. You have more resources to help fight the fire, but you also have new roles and new responsibilities.
We have crews coming up to assist. Is this our only access?
Yeah, that's the only access. This other side.
Fighting fires in port tests more than your knowledge of fire safety. This program is about the communications process, too. Both the ship and the shore want to put fires out quickly and safely, but sometimes they have different ideas about how to do it.
I think the captain, at this point in time, has to be aware that the firefighting resources from the local departments will be very, very anxious to help, but won't have much of an idea of how they can help.
You have a much better firefighting evolution if you can get the people on the ship to share their information with the people on the shore, and that's really a critical link.
Fire in port, the ship-shore interface, is in 4 parts: communicating effectively, the fire plan and its importance, the incident command system, and coordinating the ship-shore response to the fire.
There's not a whole lot of firemen that want to be a marine firefighter because they're not the friendliest fires that we can face.
Do you have a mate who can help him?
We'll follow the action in an actual ship-shore fire exercise and hear expert commentary from some of the key players, including the United States Coast Guard, which monitors fire safety practices in American ports.
I think it was Teddy Roosevelt that said that certainly in a crisis, the best decision is the right decision. The second best decision is the wrong decision, and the worst decision is no decision.
Our focus here is on the ship side of the ship-shore interface. What's different about fighting a fire when you're in port? What's the same? And what should you do? To work effectively, ships and their crews must work safely. Developing a safety culture will prevent personal injuries on board ships. It's not only the safe and smart way to operate, it's also mandatory. Running a safe ship is important to those who own it, to those who man it, and to those who entrust it with their cargo. It's also an important new emphasis of the revised STCW Convention and the ISM Code. Specifically, the ISM Code requires ship owners and managers to develop a safety management system that will provide for safe practices in ship operation, establish safeguards against risk, and continuously improve safety management skills. In this program, we'll feature the insight and commentary of author Richard Bracken, whose book, Personal Injury Prevention, A Guide to Good Practice, sets out the basic steps in building a true safety culture on board ship.
The worst way to do it is just to put a set of manuals on board the ship and say, follow these procedures and everything will be fine, because take it from me, it won't be. What it really is about is giving the people on the ship the ownership of the procedures. Let them have a part of it. When you're developing the procedures, go around the ship with them, take the people on board and take them to show you what safe practice is. It's an evolving process.
Turn it on by flipping this switch here.
We'll identify the 6 items of personal protective equipment recommended for individual protection. We'll discuss the ways ships can prevent accidents and injuries before they happen. And we'll see examples of the safe use of onboard tools and equipment. How serious is the business of personal injury prevention? P&I clubs estimate that after cargo claims, personal injury and illness claims are their second largest category of claims registered, accounting for more than a third of the total. To dramatize the seriousness of this issue, we're going to introduce you to a couple of characters that are not quite so serious, to contrast the good and the bad.
No! Safety, schmafety. Come on.
Safety at sea requires that we develop a safety culture, an environment where safety becomes an everyday priority and a process of continuous improvement. In this program, we're going to look at some of the everyday work practices that can be improved with a greater attention to personal safety and injury prevention. We'll highlight the use of the 6 essential pieces of personal protective equipment: boiler suits, steel-toed safety shoes, safety helmets, ear protection, gloves, and goggles. We'll also feature commentary by loss prevention expert Richard Bracken, whose book, Personal Injury Prevention, A Guide to Good Practice, is the best authority on the subject.
We can quantify costs, we can quantify the repatriation costs and all those types of things. But at the end of the day, people don't want to get hurt, and they don't want to let the side down.